We're going to look at a few more functions in this video. So the next one, these are all really simple functions. Most of them are just a return instruction. When you actually start writing real functions that are going to be used in real programs, you will almost certainly write more than one line. If it's only one line, there's really not much point in making it into a function. But we're going to write one here called circle circumference. It's going to accept a double, which is the radius, and it's going to return the circumference. So again, start off with the word static. It's going to return a double, no comma. It's going to be called circle circumference. I'm going to pass in a double, call it radius. And it's going to return 2 times pi times the radius. So return 2 times math dot pi times radius. And then we need to write some code to call it. Okay, so plus circle circumference. Pass in 5. And so if we take 2 times pi, that's about 6 2/7 times the radius. So that would be 5 times 6 is 30, and a little bit over 30. So let's go ahead, maybe what, 31, 32? Between 31 and 32. Okay. Now we're going to write a function that actually is more than one line long. We're going to write a function that will calculate an employee's pay when given his hours worked and his hourly rate of pay. We will assume that you get overtime, or time and a half for overtime, and for all hours over 40. So static again. It's going to return a double representing the person's pay, and we're going to call this pay. We're going to pass in two things, hours and rate. Those can both be fractions, so we're going to make them both type double. We want to do an if statement here. The calculation is going to be different if they have overtime than it is if they don't have overtime. So we'll do the easy one first. If hours is less than or equal to 40, then we're going to return hours times rate. It's that simple. But if it's 40 or more, then I'm going to return 40 times the rate. That's their pay for the first 40 hours, plus 1.5 times the hours over 40, which would be hours minus 40, multiplied by the rate. Okay, so time and a half for hours over 40, that's basically what we're saying right here. Let's put a semicolon on the end to get rid of the red wavy. And now let's write some code to call that. So we're doing 50 hours. We're going to call pay as the name of the function. And we're going to pass in, the first thing is the hours. And we said 50 hours. And the second thing is the rate. We said 10. And here the order does make a difference. If you turn those two around, you're going to get a completely different answer. So if we do 40 times 10, we'll get 400. And then for the next 10 hours, we get time and a half. So it's basically like getting paid for 15 hours. So we should get 550 for an answer if we do this. Let's go ahead and run it. And we get 550. So we've written all numeric functions so far, but you can write a function that returns any data type at all. And we're going to write a function now that returns a Boolean. Whoops. We're going to call this function isEven. We're going to pass in an integer. Probably doesn't make much sense to pass in a floating point number here. So a number is even if when you divide by 2, the remainder is 0. So this is going to return true if the number is even. It's going to return false if the number is not even. So let's do an if statement here. If n divided by 2 and take the remainder is equal to 0, then I want to return true. Otherwise, return false. Okay. So we need to call that one. So if it's not even, we should get false as our return value. Let's run it. And we do get false. Let's try, I'm going to copy this so I don't have to type quite so much again. Let's copy that and hit enter and paste it in. And this time we'll just put a 0 on the end, and it is even. So we should get true here. And over here I need to put the 0 on the end as well. Okay, so this time we should get true on the last line. False, true. Okay, it's working. Now, when you have a statement like this, where you're just returning true or false depending on whether this value up here is true or false, you don't really need an if statement. If this value right here is true, we're going to return true. If this value up here is false, we're going to return false. So all we're doing is returning this value right here. So if you want to, you can shorten this up like that. Okay. Now, if you think that's hard to read, it's fine to go with the if statement. But you may see other people writing code that looks like this, and this is perfectly legal. It's maybe not quite as readable, at least until you get used to it, but it works exactly the same way. So I should still get false and true for my last 2 lines up here, and I do. So it's working exactly the same. Now we're going to write another function, Boolean, and this one's called isOdd. Okay. Well, what I could do here is I could write an if statement, but isOdd is the opposite of isEven. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make use of the function I've already written. So I'm going to return not isEven n. Okay. And let's take a number, for example. Let's say I pass in 10. Okay, well, I pass isOdd should return false because 10 is not odd. If I pass 10 into isEven, I get true, but if I put a not in front of true, I get false, and I'll return false, which is what I want. If I send in an odd number, then I want it to return true. And if I send an odd number to isEven, I'll get false, but if I put a not in front of false, not false is true, so it'll return true, so it'll do exactly what I want to do. Let's take these 2 lines right here, and instead of retyping my calls, I need to do a couple of things. So change this to isOdd. And so I want here is, I want to say it is odd. And so I want true return. And we'll say is not odd. And I got to change this one. Okay, and let's go ahead and run this. So we should get false, true, true, false. False, true, true, false. So it's working. So the lesson here is that if you have written a function that makes it easier for you to compute the result of another function, feel free to call it. Do anything that makes your life easier when you're writing code. Okay, we've probably put in enough time for this video, so we will stop here and we will do some more functions in the next video.